I sent her $400,000, every penny I had saved for 50 years. She called me her forever, her protector, her American dream. Then I saw the wedding photos, her in white, him kissing her, both of them smiling, and I finally understood what I'd been to her all along. I was 56 when I sent that first message on Filipino Cupid. 2 years after my divorce was finalized. 2 years of an empty house in Phoenix that echoed every time I walked through it. My ex-wife had taken our daughter to Portland, remarried within 8 months, and made it clear I wasn't welcome in their new life. The silence was crushing. I'd spent 30 years building telecommunications networks across the Southwest, retiring early with a solid pension and savings, but none of it meant anything when I ate dinner alone every night. Liesel's profile was simple: a nursing student in Cebu, 24 years old. Her photos showed a small woman with long black hair and a shy smile. She wasn't posing like the other profiles. No bikini shots, no party pictures, just her in a modest dress at what looked like a family gathering, and another of her studying at a library. Something about her felt real. I almost didn't message her. The age gap made me hesitate, but loneliness does strange things to a man's judgment. I told myself I was just looking for conversation, maybe a pen pal. Nothing serious. I typed a simple greeting, mentioned I was planning to visit the Philippines someday, and hit send before I could overthink it. She replied within an hour. Her English was good but careful, like she was translating each thought. She asked about America, about my work, about why I wanted to visit her country. I found myself typing long responses, telling her about my empty nest, my failed marriage, my dreams of seeing Asia before I got too old to travel. She listened, or rather she read, and she asked the kinds of questions that made me feel like someone actually cared about my answers. That first week, we messaged every day. Small things at first. What I ate for breakfast. What the weather was like in Arizona. What nursing school was like in Cebu. But it grew. The conversations got longer, more personal, more meaningful. I started checking my phone constantly, waiting for her messages like a teenager. It felt pathetic, but it also felt good, like I mattered to someone again. 3 months into our daily messages, Liesel suggested we video chat. I spent an hour cleaning my living room before the call, adjusting the laptop camera, feeling ridiculous for being nervous at my age. When her face filled the screen, she was even prettier than her photos, smaller somehow, more delicate. She wore a simple white blouse and had her hair pulled back. "Hello, Garrett," she said, and her voice was soft, a little shy. I couldn't speak for a second, just stared at her like an idiot. "Hi," I finally managed. "Hi, Liesel. It's so good to see you." "You too," she said, and her smile was genuine, sweet. I was nervous. "Me too." We talked for 2 hours that first night. She told me about her nursing program, how expensive it was, how her family struggled to help pay for it. "My father drives a jeepney in Cebu City," she said, looking down at her hands. "My mother sells vegetables at the market. We don't have much, but they sacrifice everything for me to study. I'm the eldest of 4 children. I carry all their hopes." I heard the weight in her voice, the pressure. "That must be hard," I said. "It is," she admitted. "Sometimes I want to quit. The stress is so much, but I cannot. They depend on me." I didn't offer money then. I just listened. I told her about my own family. My daughter who barely spoke to me. My ex-wife who'd drained our joint accounts before the divorce was final. My mother who'd passed away 3 years earlier. Liesel's eyes got soft when I talked about my mom. She said something in Tagalog I didn't understand, then translated. "I'm sorry for your loss. No one should die without their family close." Something in my chest cracked open. We started video chatting every night after that. She'd call me after her classes, sometimes looking exhausted, still in her nursing scrubs from clinical rotations. I'd make coffee and sit at my kitchen counter, and for those hours, my house didn't feel so empty. She'd laugh at my jokes, ask me to show her around my neighborhood through the camera, tell me about the ocean in Cebu and the festivals, and the food I had to try when I visited. When I visited. Not if. When. I started planning it in my head. The flights. The hotels. Meeting her in person. 4 months in, she mentioned her tuition was due and her father had gotten sick. Couldn't work for 2 weeks. The family was behind on bills. She wasn't asking for anything. She just mentioned it in passing, the way people talk about their problems. But I heard the stress in her voice, the fear. "How much do you need?" I asked. Her eyes widened. "No, Garrett. I cannot ask you for money. That's not why I talk to you." "I know that. But how much?" $500, she said quietly. "But I will pay you back, I promise. Every peso." I sent 1,000. She cried on camera when the transfer went through, real tears streaming down her face. "You are my angel," she whispered. "My blessing from God. I don't deserve you." I felt like I'd done something good for the first time in years, like I was more than just a lonely old man in an empty house. I was someone's hero. I booked my flight to Cebu 6 months after we started talking, 3 weeks in the Philippines. I hadn't taken a real vacation since my honeymoon 30 years earlier. Liesel was so excited she could barely sit still during our video calls. "I cannot believe you're really coming," she kept saying. "I cannot wait to show you everything, to introduce you to my family. They want to meet you so much. They want to thank you." The flight was brutal. 16 hours with a layover in Tokyo. My back ached, my knees hurt, and I felt every one of my 57 years. But when I walked out of Mactan Cebu International Airport into the humid night air and saw Liesel standing there in a yellow sundress, holding a handmade welcome sign with my name in glitter, everything else disappeared. She was smaller in person, barely came up to my shoulder. When she hugged me, she felt fragile, like something I needed to protect. "You're really here," she whispered against my chest. "I'm really here," I said, and my voice cracked. The next 3 weeks felt like a dream. Liesel took me everywhere. Kawasan Falls, where the water was so blue it didn't look real. Oslob to see the whale sharks, massive, gentle creatures that made me feel small and grateful. Mole Bowl for diving, even though I wasn't much of a swimmer. I wasn't much of an adventurer, but she made everything feel magical. She held my hand in public, called me her boyfriend, introduced me to her friends with obvious pride. At night, we'd walk along the beach near my hotel, and she'd talk about her future, about becoming a doctor someday, about how much she wanted to help people. "You make me believe I can do anything," she told me one night, the ocean breeze moving her hair. "Before you, I thought I would always be trapped, poor, struggling, but now I have hope." I kissed her for the first time under the stars in Bantayan Island. She kissed me back like I was someone worth loving, like age didn't matter, like the 33 years between us were nothing. Meeting her family was overwhelming. They lived in a cramped concrete house in a crowded neighborhood called Talise. No air conditioning, thin walls, 7 people sharing 3 small rooms, but they treated me like royalty. Her mother spent 2 days cooking an enormous feast. Lechon, pancit, lumpia, dishes I'd never heard of but tasted incredible. Her father shook my hand with calloused palms and thanked me over and over for helping with Liesel's school. "You are a good man," he said in broken English. "Very good man." Her younger siblings stared at me like I was a celebrity. The youngest, a boy maybe 7 years old, asked me if everyone in America was rich. "No," I said, laughing, "not everyone." "But you are rich," he said matter-of-factly. I didn't know how to respond to that. After dinner, Liesel's father pulled me aside onto their small concrete porch. He lit a cigarette, offered me one. I declined. "You take care of my daughter," he said, his English careful but clear. She is everything to us, our future. You understand? I understand, I said. She will give you good life, he continued. She is good girl, smart, kind. She will make you happy. The weight of that statement should have scared me. Instead, it made me feel important, needed, like I finally had a purpose again. Before I left Cebu, Liesel cried at the airport. Real tears, not the fake kind. She clung to me and made me promise I'd come back soon. I love you, she said, her voice breaking. I know it's fast, but I do. I love you, Garrett. I said it back without hesitation. On the flight home, I was already planning my next visit. I visited Cebu 3 more times over the next year. Each trip I stayed longer. Each trip I sent more money between visits. Liesel's tuition, her family's medical bills, her father's jeepney needed repairs, her younger brother's school fees. The requests were always apologetic, always accompanied by explanations and gratitude. She'd send me photos of receipts, of her family at the hospital, of her report cards showing excellent grades. I don't want to burden you, she'd say. You've already done so much. It's not a burden, I'd tell her. I want to help. And I did. I was making a difference in their lives. I was building something. By the time I was 58, we'd been together almost 2 years. I'd sent probably $60,000 or $70,000 total. Not all at once, but in steady streams. 500 here, 2,000 there, 10,000 for an emergency surgery her mother needed. I didn't track it closely. I had the money. My pension was solid. My savings account had built up over decades of careful living. What was I saving it for anyway? To die alone in Phoenix with a fat bank account? Liesel started talking about marriage, about me retiring fully and moving to Cebu. I found a perfect house for us, she said during a video call. 3 bedrooms, near the beach. Only $90,000. We could build a life there, Garrett. I could finish medical school while you enjoy retirement in paradise. My family would be close. We'd never be lonely. Her eyes were bright with hope, with dreams I wanted to make real. Don't you want to be with me every day? She asked. Don't you want to wake up next to me? Of course I did. But $90,000 was different than the smaller amounts I'd been sending. That was life-changing money, real commitment. Let me think about it, I said. Her face fell, just collapsed. You don't want to marry me. I didn't say that. You think I'm just using you for money? Her voice was sharp now, hurt. Liesel, no, that's not what I meant. Everyone tells me American men are like this, she said, tears forming. They make promises, then they leave. They use you and throw you away. I'm not using you, I said, panicking. I love you. Then prove it, she said quietly. Prove you're not like the others. The conversation ended with her crying, telling me she understood. She'd been stupid to believe in us. I spent the whole night feeling like shit, like the worst person alive. By morning, I'd convinced myself I was being paranoid. This woman loved me. Her family loved me. I'd met them. I'd eaten at their table. I'd seen their lives. This wasn't a scam. This was just how relationships worked when people came from different economic realities. I sent her a message. Let's do it. Let's buy the house. Let's get married. She called, immediately crying with joy. You won't regret this, Garrett. I promise. I promise I will make you so happy. We will be so happy together. The house purchase was complicated. Property laws in the Philippines meant foreigners couldn't own land outright. But Liesel explained we could put it in her name and I'd be protected through marriage. It's normal, she assured me. All expats do it this way. Once we're married, it's our house, our home. I'd done some research online. She was right. This was standard, normal. I wired $90,000 to her account. She sent me photos of the house, white walls, tile floors, a small garden, close enough to hear the ocean. It looked perfect. Our home, she texted with a heart. We set a wedding date, small ceremony in Cebu. I'd fly over, we'd make it official, and I'd start the process of moving permanently. My daughter didn't respond when I told her my plans. My ex-wife sent a one-line text. "You're an idiot." But I didn't care. I had Liesel. I had a future. For the first time since my divorce, I felt like I was moving towards something instead of away from everything. I should have noticed that her video calls were getting shorter, that she was always busy, always stressed with school, that she'd stopped sending as many photos of her daily life. But I told myself nursing school was demanding. She was working hard for our future, our future. I didn't see what was really happening. Not yet. Not until it was far too late. 2 months before our wedding, Liesel's father had a stroke. She called me in tears, barely coherent. "Garrett, please, I need help. The hospital, they won't admit him to the ICU without a deposit, $30,000. Without it, they'll move him to the public ward where the care is terrible, where people die waiting for attention." "Slow down," I said, my heart pounding. "Is he okay?" "I don't know," she sobbed. "He's unconscious. They say it's bad, very bad. Please, Garrett, I cannot lose him. He's my father. I cannot lose my father." I sent the money that day, $30,000. It wiped out a significant chunk of my remaining savings, but what choice did I have? This was going to be my father-in-law. This was Liesel's family, my family. She sent me one photo from the hospital. Her father in a bed, tubes and wires everywhere, her mother crying beside him. After that, updates were scarce. "I'm too stressed to talk much," she texted. "Please understand. I'm at the hospital all day, school, family. It's too much." "I understand," I replied. "Take care of yourself. I love you." "I love you too," she wrote back. But something felt off. The message was short, formal almost, like she was typing it out of obligation. Her messages started getting weird after that. Short, distracted. She stopped saying "I love you" at the end of our texts. She'd go days without responding. When I asked if everything was okay, she'd say she was overwhelmed. "School's brutal. My father is improving. Slowly. The wedding planning is stressful. I just need space to breathe." Space. That word made my stomach turn. I tried calling. She didn't answer. I tried video chatting. "I'm always busy," she texted. "Please stop calling so much." I sent messages asking what I'd done wrong. No response for 12 hours, then just one line. "Nothing. I'm fine. Just tired." Something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. But what could I do from 7,000 miles away? 3 weeks before our wedding date, she finally agreed to a video call. When her face appeared on screen, she looked different. Not stressed, not tired, happier maybe, but distant, cold. "Garrett, I need to tell you something." My heart stopped, just completely stopped. "Okay," I managed. "The wedding," she said, not meeting my eyes. "We need to postpone it." "What? Why?" "My father's medical bills are more than we thought. I need to focus on helping my family. I can't think about a wedding right now. It's too much pressure." "Then I'll send more money," I said desperately. "Whatever you need. How much?" "No." She shook her head firmly. "No more money. I just need time." "Time for what?" "To figure things out." My throat tightened. "Are you seeing someone else?" Her face hardened instantly. "How can you ask me that? After everything I've sacrificed? After everything my family has done to welcome you? You insult me like this?" "I'm sorry, I'm just confused. You're pulling away and I don't understand why." "I need to go," she said coldly. "I'll message you later." The screen went black. She didn't message me later. She didn't message me for 3 days. When she finally responded, it was brief and formal, like I was a stranger. "I think we need space. I'm not ready for marriage. I'm sorry." I called her 20 times. No answer. I messaged her family members on Facebook. No one responded. I even tried calling her father's number. Disconnected. That's when the panic really set in. That's when I started wondering, if I'd made a terrible, terrible mistake. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I spent my days obsessively checking my phone, refreshing Liesel's Facebook profile, looking for any sign of what was happening. Her profile hadn't been updated in weeks. Her last post was a Bible verse about trusting God's plan. I read it over and over like it held some secret message meant for me. Then, on a Thursday morning, I was scrolling through Facebook mindlessly when I saw it. Someone had tagged Liesel in a photo album, a mutual friend of hers I'd accepted months ago during one of my visits. The album was titled Jarek and Liesel Wedding 2024. My hands started shaking before I even clicked it. The first photo loaded slowly. Liesel in a white wedding gown, a real one, expensive looking with lace and beading. She was standing next to a young Filipino man, maybe 30 years old, handsome, athletic build. They were cutting a cake together, both of them smiling, huge smiles. I scrolled, photo after photo. Liesel and this man kissing at the altar, Liesel dancing with him at the reception, Liesel laughing, looking happier than I'd ever seen her look with me. The photos were dated 3 days ago. 3 days ago. While I was sending her desperate messages asking what I'd done wrong, she was marrying someone else. I clicked through every single photo like I was torturing myself. There was her family in the crowd, her father, who supposedly had a stroke and was in the ICU, standing healthy and smiling in a barong Tagalog. Her mother, who I'd sent money to for emergency surgery, dancing with relatives. Her siblings, all dressed up, all celebrating. The reception was at a nice venue, a real venue with decorations and lights and flowers. The decorations were elaborate, professional. There had to be 200 people there. This wasn't some quiet courthouse ceremony. This was a major celebration. One photo showed the couple with an older man who appeared to be the groom's father. He was handing them an envelope, red, stuffed thick, probably money. Another showed a sign welcoming guests to the wedding of Jarek and Liesel, together forever. Together forever. I felt like I was drowning, like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out everything vital and left me hollow. I clicked on the groom's profile, Jarek Alvarez, from Cebu. His profile said he worked in construction, owned a business. His photos went back years, and there, scattered through his timeline like evidence at a crime scene, were pictures of him and Liesel, from 2 years ago, from 3 years ago, the two of them at the beach, at parties, with friends, arms around each other, kissing, laughing. We'd been together for 2 years. They'd been together longer. I went back through Liesel's profile with new eyes. All those photos she told me were just friends or cousins. I found Jarek in the background of dozens of them, tagged, commented, hearts and inside jokes. It was all there. I'd just been too blind to see it. Or maybe I hadn't wanted to see it. Maybe I'd been so desperate to believe in something good that I'd ignored every warning sign screaming at me to stop. I sat at my kitchen table for 6 hours, scrolling through years of evidence that I'd been a fool, that our entire relationship had been a lie, that I'd been nothing more than a bank account funding her real life with her real partner. The house I'd bought her, probably where she and Jarek lived now, the medical emergencies, probably fabricated or exaggerated to squeeze more money out of me. The tuition money, maybe real, maybe not. Did it even matter anymore? $400,000. I pulled up my bank statements and went through every transfer, every wire, every MoneyGram in Western Union. I'd sent them $400,000 over 2 years, nearly everything I'd saved in my 30-year career. For what? For wedding photos where I wasn't even a memory, where I was so completely erased from her life that no one at that wedding probably even knew I existed. I was the ghost funding their happiness, the invisible ATM that made their dreams come true. I messaged her one last time. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type. I saw the photos. I hope you and Jarek are very happy with my money. She blocked me within minutes. I didn't leave my house for a week. I stopped answering calls from the few friends I had. My daughter actually reached out after my ex-wife apparently told her something was wrong, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. What would I say? You were right, I was an idiot. I threw away $400,000 on a woman who never loved me. I spent those days going through everything, every message, every photo, every video call transcript I'd saved like some pathetic, lovesick teenager, looking for the truth I'd missed, looking for the moment where I should have known. The signs were everywhere. I'd just chosen not to see them. The way she'd always needed money right before I was planning to visit. Ensuring I couldn't cancel because I'd feel guilty. The way her video calls got shorter and less frequent once I'd sent the big amounts. The way she'd love-bombed me in the beginning. Excessive affection, constant attention, making me feel like the most important person in her world. Then slowly withdrawn once I was hooked. Once I was dependent on her attention like a drug. The way she'd used her family as props to make it all seem real. I'd ignored every red flag because I was lonely, because I wanted to believe that someone young and beautiful could love someone like me, because I needed to feel important to someone after my divorce made me feel worthless. I'd funded her entire life, her education, her family's bills, her house, her wedding. I'd paid for everything except my own place in her world. The worst part wasn't even the money. It was the humiliation. The knowledge that I'd been played so completely, that I'd been so desperate for love that I'd let myself be used, that I'd been so arrogant to think a 24-year-old woman would genuinely want a divorced 58-year-old man for anything other than his money. I thought about reporting it, filing a police report. But what would I say? I voluntarily sent money to someone in another country, and now I'm upset they didn't marry me. The Philippines authorities wouldn't care. The FBI wouldn't care. I hadn't been hacked or robbed. I'd been seduced and manipulated, and those aren't crimes. I thought about flying to Cebu and confronting her, confronting both of them, making a scene, demanding my money back. But what would that accomplish? They'd call security. I'd look even more pathetic, and honestly, part of me was afraid. Afraid of seeing them together, afraid of seeing the pity or contempt in her eyes when she looked at the old fool who'd funded her life. I checked my bank account. After everything, I had maybe $60,000 left. Plus, my pension. I wouldn't be homeless. I wouldn't starve. But my retirement dreams, travel, leisure, freedom, those were gone. I'd be living modestly for the rest of my life, careful with every dollar. All because I'd fallen in love with a fantasy. It's been 4 months since I saw those wedding photos. I still live in the same house in Phoenix. I still eat dinner alone. But something has changed in me, even if nothing around me has. I deleted all my dating profiles. Not out of anger, but out of understanding. I'm not looking for love anymore. I'm not looking to save anyone or be saved. I'm just trying to figure out how to live with myself, how to forgive myself. My daughter and I talk now occasionally. She doesn't say I told you so, which I appreciate more than she'll ever know. She just listens when I need to talk and sends me articles about romance scams, which I actually read now. She invited me to visit for Christmas. I might go. I joined a support group online for people who've been scammed by overseas partners. Turns out I'm not special. There are thousands of us, tens of thousands probably, men my age who sent everything to women in the Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, Colombia. The stories are all eerily similar. The patterns are all the same. We all thought we were different. We all thought our love was real. In the group, someone shared that the average victim sends around $150,000 before they realize what's happening. I sent nearly 3 times that. Someone else said they should call it the loneliness tax. I like that. It felt accurate. Brutal, but accurate. I don't hate Liesel. I've tried, but I can't. Hate requires caring, and I've worked hard to stop caring. I hope she's happy with Jarek. I hope the money I sent made their life better. I hope she actually finished nursing school and is helping people like she always said she wanted to. Mostly, I hope she doesn't do this to anyone else, but she probably will. Sometimes I look at those wedding photos. I saved them before she blocked me, because I'm a masochist, apparently. I look at how happy she looks, how in love, and I wonder if any of what we had was real. If there were any moments where she actually felt something for me. Any moments where I was more than just a transaction. Probably not. I was an ATM with feelings. A retirement plan with a pulse. An American passport with a bank account attached. The house in Cebu that I bought, I'll never see it. I looked it up on Google Maps. Found the address from the purchase documents. It's a nice neighborhood. Close to the beach, like she said. I wonder if they wake up there every morning and think about the stupid American who paid for it. Or if they've already forgotten me completely. I think they've forgotten me. I haven't forgotten them. I don't think I ever will. Not because I still love her, but because you don't forget something that costs you $400,000 in 2 years of your life. You don't forget the moment you realize you've been someone's joke. I'm 58 years old. I've been divorced, betrayed, and financially ruined by a woman young enough to be my daughter. I have maybe 20 good years left if I'm lucky, and I'll spend most of them recovering from this. But I'm still here. I'm still breathing. I still have my health, my pension, my house. I still have my daughter, tentatively. I still have mornings when the coffee tastes good, and evenings when the sunset over the Arizona desert takes my breath away. I survived 30 years of marriage ending. I survived my daughter leaving. I survived my mother dying. I'll survive this too. Last week, I started volunteering at a local senior center, teaching older adults how to use computers and smartphones, how to spot online scams, how to protect themselves from romance fraud. I tell them my story without shame now, every humiliating detail. If it saves even one person from doing what I did, maybe it means something. Maybe that $400,000 bought me something after all. A lesson expensive enough that I'll never forget it. A story that might protect someone else. I'm Garrett Sullivan, 58 years old, retired telecommunications engineer. I once believed that money could buy love and that loneliness could be cured by wire transfer. Now I know better. Now I know that the only person who can save you from your own loneliness is yourself. I eat dinner alone most nights. My house still echoes, but at least now I know who I'm living with, and I'm learning slowly to be okay with that.